Hey guys, Danny here. I hope you're all doing well. It's been a little while since I last uploaded because I've been having some problems with my shipments due to lockdown, but I'm glad to be back. Today we are looking at a drone which was sent to me for review. As always, if you'd like to pick it up, you can find a link down below. You're definitely going to want to stick around for the rest of this review, as this drone did surprise me. I initially decided to review it because of its small compact size, and it's been a while since I reviewed a smaller drone, so I did want to give it a shot. It's coming in at a pretty low price. You can pick this up, depending where you get it from, for around 70 to 80 pounds, and if you can get it cheaper than that, I think you're getting yourself a very good deal. Now, I always like to be surprised by products, and I was definitely surprised by this one, as just by its cost and a few other things, I wasn't expecting it to perform very well, but I was pleasantly surprised throughout my review, so of course I'm going to be sharing that with you today. I think the main selling point of this drone is its small compact size, and it only comes in at 242 grams. I do quite like the orange design of this one. There's a few different colors you can go for, but I decided to go with something that stands out a little bit more, as I generally pick quite boring colors. There is a adjustable camera on the front which can be adjusted up and down using the controller, and you also have a downward facing camera for optical flow positioning. This drone is also using GPS, which I will be testing during my flight test. I have the version which comes with 2 batteries, which I always recommend if you're going to be keeping a drone for quite a long period of time. These are using a 2200 milliamp hour battery, which should give us a pretty good flight time. Again, I'll be testing that as well. And they do come with these cool lights which let you know of their charge status. I've seen this controller design before, and it's not my favorite design, as the phone holder can be a little bit tricky to get your phone to settle in there. During my tests and when I was putting in the phone initially, it does have a bit of a tendency to slip out. You may find it varies depending what case or size phone you're using, but I just feel it's not the best design. It is quite cool the way it works. When you fold down the bottom pieces, the controller does turn on, and this also has an inbuilt battery, so you charge the controller up using a micro USB, which I do quite like. Some people prefer removable batteries or just using your own, but I do quite like these sealed systems. It probably won't be as good if you're using the drone over a long period of time, but depending how they're set up, they're not always that difficult to get to. But overall, I don't mind the design of the controller. It's just the phone holder that I did have an odd issue with my phone popping out. But other than that, it feels pretty good, pretty solid, and it doesn't feel too cheaply made. Getting the drone set up and paired was nice and straightforward, which unfortunately isn't always the case with a lot of drones I've tested, so I didn't have any headaches there. And a lot of you often ask for the app name on some of these drones, so the app is called H Fun Pro, which you can find on the app stores. We have the Wi-Fi feed in the bottom left, and one thing I forgot to mention earlier on is this drone does not have a micro SD slot, which I was quite disappointed to learn this, because at the price point it's at, I would have expected it to have one. And what this enables you to do is have slightly better quality video, and it also removes any possible issues with the Wi-Fi feed breaking up. So right now you can see I'm recording using the app, but this is just recording from the feed that's coming from the drone. So if there's any interference or any connection problems, that will then show up in the video. If you're recording to a micro SD, then you won't have that issue, because the signal doesn't have to then transmit to your phone, then be saved. You also notice I just had an issue with the phone holder where my phone popped out. That was what I was mentioning earlier, so that was a little bit annoying. I normally feel like you can get a good indication of how well a drone's going to fly just within the first minute or so of taking it off, because you can often get an idea of its stability and just how well it handles, you know, the control response time and everything like that. And initially my impressions were really good, so I decided to do a little range test here and then use the return to home function. This is kind of the standard routine that I normally do. You'll see that it breaks up quite quickly and then regains connection, so I didn't decide to take it any further. I hit the return to home button and it started to come back to me pretty quickly. It's also nice to see that it orientated back before flying. Some drones will sort of fly backwards, which I don't think looks as good, because it's just nice to see yourself coming into shot. The drone headed back to me pretty promptly, which I do prefer. Some drones give you the option to delve into these settings and change them a little bit more. Some of them are a lot slower and methodical, but this was a bit quicker, which I generally prefer. This is where things got very interesting with this drone. Look just how closely it lands from where I took off from. I also want to mention quickly, in case I forget, I wasn't able to adjust the camera's direction while I was in return to home mode, which was really annoying because on all other drones I've used I was able to do this, so hopefully there's some kind of update or fix of that that's possible. You'll see I adjusted it slightly there at the end, as it does allow you to change the position while it's coming down to land, and we'll see if that's a fluke later on because I'll be doing another return to home to see how it fares. Now, I always try and do my best to describe the flight handling for drones, which is sometimes easier said than done, but this one is using brushless motors, so I'm not sure if that's why I had such a good experience, but the GPS positioning, its ability to hold its position, and just its general flight performance seemed very good. The drone felt like it had a lot of power to give. I would have liked a little bit more maneuverability, even on the higher rates. I would have liked just a little bit more, but I tend to say that with most drones. Overall, I felt that the performance was very good. It didn't feel like I was underpowered. I was able to fight the wind and adjust for the wind pretty well. And considering this drone is so small, I was just generally very impressed with its flight performance. And with these smaller drones, that can often be an issue. I wasn't able to turn off GPS mode, so I couldn't really do any more manual maneuvers, which was a little bit disappointing because having a drone that can perform great in GPS but more for a fun flyer as well is always a great bonus. So it was a bit disappointing that I wasn't able to turn it off. It's quite possible that I didn't do it correctly, or I'm not sure, but there was a GPS button, and no matter in which way I pressed it, the GPS seemed to stay on from what I could see. But yeah, if you know how to turn it off, leave a comment down below for me. I tried several times to get the tracking feature to work. I also did a second test that I probably won't include the footage for here, where I moved further away, but I couldn't get it to work at all. So I would recommend seeing if any other reviewers have this issue, if this particular feature is something that you really want. Most of the smart features in these cheaper drones I don't really generally pay much attention to. I test them for people so they know if they're going to work or not, but they're not something I personally use. I generally find them a gimmick. They're more useful in the much more expensive range of drones you can find, where they are much more usable. But in a drone of this price, it's not really something I think most people will use, but it is fun to play around with. On the second short range test I did, I was able to take it out quite a bit further. My altitude was pretty similar, so I don't think that had anything to do with it the second time, but it worked better anyway. And you'll see I get out to a certain point and then the feed actually freezes up. I hit the return to home button, and the feed doesn't come back until a lot later, until the drone is pretty much on top of me. So once that happens, I will skip forward to that point. Even though the drone flops off the pad at the last minute, I was still super impressed that twice it almost landed on the pad by itself. This has never happened to me before, even with really expensive drones, so maybe it was just a fluke, but it happened twice. So this drone seems to have pretty good GPS, which is nice for the price point that it's at. I'm interested to know what you guys think of the camera quality on this, as this is often something that varies from person to person. Of course, if you're going to be after a drone that's going to give you good stable video, this isn't going to be for you. And of course, if you want something with good quality, this is just one of those lower price drones that is going to be something you're going to use more for fun, and maybe for a first time drone it's pretty cool to have Wi-Fi FPV or experience it for the first time like I did years ago. It's a interesting feature, but it's not really usable for good shots unless you really are willing to put down a lot more money on the drone. And of course, this doesn't have a gimbal, so you are going to get a lot of shake, which isn't going to make your shots so great. But the camera overall I think is kind of average for its price point. I don't think it's bad, and I don't think it's necessarily good, so it's somewhere in the middle. Another area this drone surprised me in was its battery life. I got around 24 minutes of flight time from one battery, which was very impressive when you consider its price and size. This was better than I expected. It did state to have a 25-minute flight time, but I didn't really expect to get close to that. So the battery life, at least for the drones I've used at this price point and size, is above average, and I was very happy with it. My final thoughts on this drone are pretty positive. It's a very good flyer. The GPS seemed very accurate. It has a good battery life, and the rest of the specs are, I think, decent enough for its price point. I don't think this drone is great value for money, as depending where you get it from, it can be around £100. So if you can get a good deal on this, if you can get it for £70 to £80, I don't think it's a bad deal. But let me know what you think below. I'm interested to know your thoughts, if you've used it yourself, what your experiences have been. But hopefully, based on this video, it gives you an indication of maybe what you can expect. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing for more videos like this one. And of course, I will see you in the next one.